Live, Laugh, Larceny discusses true petty crimes that may be disturbing to some.
Or could be easy listening to all you psychopaths out there.
All stories are based on actual events, but details may vary.
Listener discretion is not advised.
Live,
Laugh.
Larceny. Welcome to Live, Laugh, Larceny, watching the door-to-door salesman through your Ring doorbell so you can live at a normal volume again. This is Trevin.
And I'm Amanda. I love that I now have a doorbell cam because I don't have to go and look out the bay window and be like, get away from my house. I just don't even have to go over there, or you can talk through it if you need to. It's a whole nother level.
I brought the no soliciting sign with me from the old place.
Yes.
And the stickiness kind of wore off.
Oh, no.
And so I have it in a little mail container inside the house. So I haven't had it on the house that much since we've moved here.
So you're getting all the solicitors.
We've been getting them.
You need to put that out there. I'm telling you.
I really do, because my dreadful dilemma this week has to do with one.
Okay, tell us more.
So Emily and I are notorious for, like, we're always quiet when the door-to-door guy comes to our house.
Okay.
I feel like there's a shame to it that I don't want to actually answer my door and say, I don't want your product. So I just pretend I'm not home, even though most of the time they have a pretty good idea that I'm home.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm absolutely sure they know I'm home.
Oh,
Because
they know.
Emily and I'll be singing weird songs about butts and stuff, and it's like,
Yeah, it's like, do not breathe.
yeah, don't make a noise. So we had this happen the other day, and we did that. One of those situations where I'm sure he probably had a great idea. We were home.
Yeah.
And not too long after, we went to go take a walk with Mabel.
Oh, no.
I mean, it was probably like 40 minutes after the doorbell rang, so I didn't think anything of it. But if you're walking door to door on each street, up and down, both sides, on our way back from the walk, we looked back behind us, and there he was.
No.
It felt like a Mike Myers,
No.
Jason situation. It was so scary to just see the door-to-door salesman, and I'm out in the wild. I'm not behind a locked door anymore.
Oh, my God.
What's he going to try to sell to me? Like, is he going to try to sell to a walker?
They might.
It felt like he was following us. We made 2 turns, but I think it was the end of his shift and he made it to the end of the neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
And I felt so weird because I was picking up speed. It felt like a chase. And I thought, if this guy's trying to figure out where I live just to try to sell something to me, and we just kept running and looking back, and then...
You were running?
Well, I was at a trot.
No, you were not.
I was at a trot while also looking back anxiously.
You were trotting?
Well, you know, with the dog, we were both given a little show dog trot.
No. No.
I just can't imagine how that guy must have felt, because I was looking back anxiously. Like, is he still here? Oh my God. And we're walking. It was like one of those scenes in a horror movie where it's like one of the anxious tense scenes in the beginning to kind of get you there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually lead to anything.
It just plateaus. Yeah.
Like, it seems like they're chased and then somebody takes a left turn and then the car finally goes straight.
Yeah. And they're like, oh God, thank God.
It was exactly that situation. We turned on our street where we were probably like the 3rd or 4th house down, and he stopped right at the corner there.
Were you guys trotting before you saw him?
No.
I'm just picturing it from the mindset of the sales guy. And you guys are just la 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 walking with Mabel. And then next thing you know, you're looking back at him, you're running, you're trotting, you're scampering.
Yes.
I would have been like, oh, God damn it. Another person thinks I'm a serial killer.
Or just, oh, these uppity neighborhoods, God, just afraid somebody might talk to me. And the truth is, yes. I mean, I really didn't want him to talk to me.
I mean, you don't want to have a situation like I had with our security guy, which, by the way, went back, read a lot of the messages that people were sending about, Amanda, hello, that security salesman you had probably put a hidden camera in your bathroom. And then specifically, because he took a long time in there, and then he specifically was demanding that he come back into the bathroom But we looked, my husband and I looked, we did the whole trick where you turn off the lights and you have a flashlight, and we looked and looked and looked. I could not find a hidden camera. I'm not saying that theory is wrong.
It was a great theory, and I am surprised that it's been like 2 months since we talked about this. Like, here's a good update, very timely.
I know, it just happens that you brought it up and it reminded me that, oh, I did see those, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I also have a dreadful dilemma. Trevin, this isn't going to be something that you can sympathize with me a whole lot on.
Uh-oh, lady stuff.
It's a lady thing, but...
It's a lady thing.
It's a lady thing, so stay out of it. I'm just kidding. You can definitely speak in. I need someone to speak back to me. So my dreadful dilemma, and I'm curious if any of our listeners have had this happen, is that ever since the eclipse that happened this year in April, my menstrual cycle was going berserk, you guys. So for 6 months, I went back and double checked it before I actually said this on the mic. For 6 documented straight months in a row before the eclipse. Yes, I have receipts. Before the eclipse, my period began on the exact same day. I think it was like the 9th, because that's when I'm born. I remembered that. So it was on the 9th. Maybe it would happen on the 10th, okay? Mm-hmm. After the eclipse, though, shit is going crazy. It was 5 days earlier. Now it's like 8 days earlier. It just keeps starting sooner and sooner and sooner ever since the eclipse. And I need to know if I'm the only one.
You know, I think you might have something in common with my wife, but I don't think she's made the eclipse connection.
Oh my God.
So this may go deeper than we even know.
This might go all the way to the top. No, I do need to talk to Emily, though, and I do need all of our menstruating listeners to holler at your girl.
Mm-hmm.
Did it change around April for you like it did for us? I'm saying us. I don't even know if Emily's included, but she automatically is.
I know she's been very caught off guard by it lately.
Weird. I did see that there were like Reddit threads about it. I saw that there were online magazine things like Elle magazine and shit. They were like, is the eclipse affecting your cycle? And I was like, okay, well, other people are at least talking about that.
Damn, I bet we've got at least one listener that's going to school us on something moon related or
maybe. They're going to be like, duh, it's because the moon is in the 7th house closest to the land of the lakes of the solar system.
And it's waning.
Yeah. And I'd be like, oh shit, my bad.
Yeah, duh, everybody knows that.
So Trevin.
Yes.
Today, are we going to share some killer facts?
We are going to share some killer facts.
Hello? We've traced the facts. They're coming from inside the house.
Killer facts. And I have a fact that is just downright killer.
Oh, well.
So you know how when we were growing up, there were all these things that went around and parents were saying like, oh, rainbow parties, or just all these scary things where it's usually like children are having giant orgies or they're like blood sacrifices to Marilyn Manson or something like that.
Are you talking about satanic panic?
I'm talking.
Or are you talking about homophobia? Or children cults?
Like rainbow parties. You've never heard of those? Like where they...
Rainbow parties, like an orgy, like taste every color of the rainbow?
Where every girl like wears a different lipstick and then a guy hopes to have a rainbow doodle by the end of it.
What?
Well, they're not real.
Okay, are you sure?
But it was something that the fearful white media made.
They're like, all of your daughters are going to wear the rainbow on their lips.
Yes.
And give BJs until the color of the rainbow has landed.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it makes a lot of parents think that like every kid's doing this.
Wow.
And I know there was a bunch of other ones and I cannot think of any good examples of them. I'm sure our listeners give us a ton.
Okay.
My point with that is those were never real, but we feared them. But I want to bring a very popular kid activity that is real.
Oh, shit.
And I think we should all fear it.
Okay.
The poop needle.
Huh? Honestly, I would take a rainbow party over this already.
So the poop needle is a real thing in South Korea. It's not here in America.
Okay.
But it's so real that they have statues commemorating the game.
What?
It's known as Dong Chim, and it's a bizarre South Korean game where children are allowed to poke you in the butt.
With a needle.
No, so it's a popular prank that involves using your index finger to poke someone in between the butt cheeks with as much force as you can muster.
What? This is a modern times game?
I'm coming from an article from The Sun, the Scottish Sun, actually.
More specifically?
From 2018.
Okay.
But they actually have a statue in...
Is the statue just like of somebody bent over with a finger poking their butthole? Oh my God, there literally is. Give it here. This is disturbing.
Isn't that hilarious?
I'm sorry, but no. My girls love mannequins in the stores, and this would just be too far.
Even for them. The bizarre hobby is practiced by children of all ages across South Korea and is treated by adults as a perfectly normal prank. In fact, when one Korean town wanted to build a statue of two youngsters frolicking by the ocean, they decided one child should be jabbing the other in the bottom.
So they were just coming up with a cute, child-friendly statue by the beach, and they were like, yep, got to be playing this little poke the booty game.
Yep.
It's so common that they're like, this is real life.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. I don't have any good facts on it except for it's very popular and they love it so much that they said, I don't want just a statue of kids having fun. I want one poking them in the ass. That's how much I love this game. It must be represented in a statue.
I mean, they say that the best art is replicating real life, right?
Right.
Don't they say that? I don't know. I might have just totally fucking made that up. But that's what they say. So now it's out there.
Are you thinking of life imitates art?
Maybe it's
Real
that.
art is usually about life.
And now that's a fucking quote, and everyone better live by it. Well, that is very funny and random. Honestly, at first I was a little disturbed, but now I can see the playfulness. I'm still disturbed, but I also understand the playfulness of it.
I just wish if the media was going to pick up one of these things and make our parents scared, let's make it kind of silly. And also, this one's actually real.
Yeah, there's a statue that's honoring this game.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone needs to be afraid, this is the one. I also have a killer fact. So I'm actually going to talk about a real life mystery, and I'm sure that there are way longer podcasts out there and way more in depth, obviously, shows and YouTube videos and things. I'm just going to give you the cliff notes. But this is a weird, unexplained event that happened that still to this day, we don't know why or what exactly it was.
Oh, you like doing these kind of things.
Yes. So I recently watched an episode on Netflix. There's a show called Files of the Unexplained.
I've never heard of it, but it sounds interesting.
It's very good.
It's new?
And I think it's newer.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but it's newer. Very, very good. I recommend it. This was the only episode I watched. Okay. I haven't watched any of the other ones, but this one was really good. And I don't want to tell you the name of the title yet, because I also want to say that this mystery was also featured on the original Unsolved Mysteries show.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds
Back in
like
the
an
day.
Unsolved Mysteries thing.
Yes, yes, yes. This was also covered back in the day. But now I will tell you, the name of the episode on the Netflix show is called Bizarre Blobs of Washington.
That wasn't the debate?
I mean, it could have very well been called that. Okay, very similar. So that was a good one, Trevin. On August 7th in 1994, there's a small country town called Oakville, Washington. And blobs started falling from the sky during rainstorms, okay? These blobs were translucent and they would come down during rainstorms specifically. And a lot of people would say that they looked like hail, but instead of being hard and ice, they were like these gelatinous blobby globs. And
Like jello-y.
yes, like a jelly blobby consistency, but they were translucent. And they would fall down with the rain. This was the first day that it happened, was August 7th. One of the women who lived in the town, who was featured in the episode, she began to collect the blobs and run some basic tests on them. She saw if they would dissolve in alcohol. They didn't. She saw if they were flammable. They were not. And so she was like, okay, I'm going to send this to a bunch of different test sites, like environmental testing places and the state health department, places like that.
Okay. Yeah.
She sent a bunch of these blobby samples out to them. And basically, there were cells found in the blobs that came from a living thing. There were a couple theories that maybe because around this area in Washington, the military base was doing a bunch of testing where they were blowing up bombs in the ocean nearby, like 40 miles out.
Oh.
And they were thinking maybe these explosions somehow blew jellyfish up into the air or their parts, and then they fell down. But then that theory was quickly squashed because it kept happening. It didn't just happen the day after these bomb tests. In total, there were 6 storms over a 3-week period. And people started getting sick if they touched the blobs without using gloves or other things. So people were getting flu-like symptoms. Animals died, cats, cattle, hundreds of dead crabs on the beach. And they were all surrounded by these weird blobs.
Gross.
According to the same woman who was doing the testing, I should have gotten her fucking name. I feel horrible about that, but I don't have it. She said that shortly after, there were big black helicopters flying over the town. Mysterious men were visiting and asking about the blobs. And when they wrote down some of these men's license plate, they found that it was tracked back to Fort Hood, like a military base. Mm-hmm. The theory then became maybe the blobs were designed as a carrier for bacteria or virus, used as an experiment on the townspeople without their consent. That was a big theory or conspiracy, however you want to look at it. But biological weapons were a hot topic at the time that this happened. The samples ended up being taken in a mysterious way by men in suits kind of thing, like the last samples that the state was testing. And there's still to this day no official answer about what the blobs were.
That's a good mystery.
Isn't that wild?
Just the thought of blobs being everywhere and being falling from the skies.
I'll post pictures like we always do on our Instagram, but picture a translucent piece of hail. But then when you go to touch it, it's soft and ooze-like.
Yeah.
Weird. I need answers, but I don't know if we're ever going to get them.
After you said people were getting sick, that answered my question, because all I was thinking was, did she taste it?
No. And it's probably a good thing that nobody tasted it. But the animals may have. That might have been why the animals died.
Yeah.
So, Trevin.
Yes.
Enough with these sticky situations. Should we go to some ads?
Please. And we are back.
Hello.
It's my week to go first. And after last week's fun, exciting, star-studded episode,
Yes.
I thought, man, it's going to be hard to really top that.
Right.
And I'm not trying to go big or anything. I understand that the only way to create art is, not viewing it that way. But I tried something different, and I really enjoy this in a much different way than the one we did last week.
Really? Good.
But I think that's the beauty of this whole anthology kind of thing that we do. Like, you can have fun and make any kind of story you want.
That is so damn true. Wow. You have been very creative over the years on this show. So I'm curious where this is going.
I have. And honestly, I didn't think I would ever write one quite like this. So let's just jump into this one.
Okay.
And here we go. Our existence is full of contrasts. Good and evil, light and dark, petty and magnanimous. Google told me that's the opposite of petty. Don't at me. These dualities shape our world. In our society, where high-stakes politics and low-quality TikToks dominate, these differences often go unnoticed, yet they are more prevalent than ever. Life is a constant dance of opposites in everything we encounter, from individuals and places to the changing of seasons. Each side on the coin coexists, allowing for shifts from one extreme to another. These dualities are not just abstract concepts. They are woven into the very fabric of human nature. Every person carries within them the potential to act across the spectrum of behaviors. As Everlast sang in the 1998 hit, What It's Like, I've seen a rich man beg, I've seen a good man sin, I've seen a tough man cry, I've seen a loser win and a sad man grin. I heard an honest man lie. Whether it's me, you, or the wide variety of individuals Everlast encountered, we all have the capacity to act in ways that contradict our core beliefs, sometimes becoming strangers even to ourselves. Today, someone faces a choice between the person they aspire to be and the conflicting duality of their true nature. A decision not to be taken lightly, especially when one path leads to embracing the role of a petty criminal. Christy, a 37-year-old from Lee County, Florida, had a winning smile, straight brown hair, and an insatiable need to please. Her primary goal was to be liked, often leading her to apologize unnecessarily.
I'm sorry you shit on the floor.
And blindly agree with others to avoid conflict.
I guess it does go well with the decor.
This quest for approval defined her persona. No matter what situation unfolded, Christy was there with a smile and would never cause friction. This was particularly evident in her relationship with her roommate. Unfortunately for this story, and your humble narrator, the roommate in question's name was Krista, but we'll do our best to avoid confusion. Krista had known Christy since the 2nd grade. After defending Christy from a school bully, Krista became a constant presence. Despite her frustrations with Krista's freeloading, Christy never spoke up, fearing to upset someone who liked her. Krista's criminal behavior and devil-may-care attitude clashed with Christy's cautious ways on a regular basis. They had one of those television sitcom relationships where one person was an obvious asshole, but they somehow always hung out every day. From stealing Christy's prom date senior year,
How could you?
to negotiating the rent so Christy paid for everything, their relationship had an imbalance of power. Yet Christy was happy to have someone around, and Krista enjoyed the stability. Things in their relationship had changed quite a bit from their toxic 20s. Christy traded in crimped hair and cocktail dresses at the club
I'm lit as a tit.
for activewear and wine and Stanley cups, while Krista's early charges of petty theft had escalated to more serious robberies. Despite their divergent paths, they always managed to return to their odd friendship dynamic. Now, the two operated as an elder millennial female version of the odd couple, except one was a petty criminal and the other desperately wanted to be liked. Things around the home had been tense for some time. Each day Christy came home from work, there sat her roommate, watching Real Housewives of Wichita, Kansas, in a sweaty pair of underwear. Her back ached from long hours at the work factory. Her car just got a new check engine light, and her head pounded from listening to her coworker Penny's incessant chatter.
My son's very successful.
As Christy retreated to her room for a change of clothes and some pain reliever, she couldn't help but feel the weight of her unremarkable life pressing down on her. Her daily routine, once comforting in its predictability, now felt like a prison. Every decision she had ever made seemed driven by a fear of disappointing others.
Who am I?
She asked herself, staring into the mirror, a lifetime of regrets and a forced smile reflecting back at her.
What have I done?
She questioned, looking off dramatically. Christy needed a change in her life. She wanted to feel young, wild, and free again. No consequences, just fun. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized she didn't know what fun was anymore. Most of her days were spent bending to fit the shape others wanted. She hadn't made a decision for herself since she splurged on 8-ply toilet paper at the store.
Oh, yeah.
Although she was unsure of what she really wanted, Christy knew exactly who did know how to be free. For their entire lives, Christy had watched Krista steal anything she desired and take down anyone who stood in her way. Krista lived purely for herself and never faced discomfort. If there was any wisdom to gain from her freeloading roommate, this was it. Now, draped in the rattiest of comfy clothes and the messiest of top knots, Christy made her way to the living room. She could hear the voice of Darlene, one of the Real Housewives of Wichita, having an emotional breakdown.
Quit sleeping with my husband!
As she listened to this Midwestern reality star's panic, she reminded herself how important it was not to panic. This conversation was about her needs and her happiness. Determined to take control of her life, Christy sought advice from the one person who seemed to have mastered the art of self-fulfillment. Sitting on the couch opposite Krista, she looked upon her chosen guru of self-love. Tangled hair, chocolate-stained lips, and remnants of Cheetos balanced precariously on the edge of her belly button, like a basketball deciding to go in the hoop. Christy felt a gag reflex seeing how careless her roommate was. But amidst the filth, Krista's ability to live authentically made her realize how much she yearned for the same freedom. Darlene is such a mess, Krista commented. Everyone is always sleeping with her husband, and all she can do is drink and cry about it. If it were me, I'd put his Xbox in a blender and fistfight every woman in Wichita. Christy knew this wasn't just couch conversation. She'd seen plenty of times in the past where her longtime friend got into brawls over her personal beliefs.
Accept my expired coupon!
Although concerning, this remark was the perfect icebreaker for her mission at hand.
How do you do it?
Asked Christy, too impatient for a response.
How do you always manage to know what you want and act on it? I swear, I never see you do anything you don't want to do. That's what I want. I want to live young, wild, and free.
Krista looked over at her good-doing better half, skeptical that she could ever be like her. You just gotta not give a fuck, she said casually. You probably want me to pay your rent. You'd probably like it if I cleaned up after myself. And I'm sure you're tired of me leaving pit stains on your good couch. But I don't give a fuck. And I think that's my personal key to happiness. Christy looked down in defeat, realizing just how hard not giving a fuck really sounded. Her inner turmoil was palpable, leading to a change of heart from her smelly-ass roommate. Have you ever wanted to commit a crime? Krista's question hung in the air. Christy's blood ran colder than a toilet seat in the middle of the night. The idea was absurd, yet there was a thrill to it. She remembered every time she had let others walk all over her, every opportunity she had let slip by because she was too afraid to take a risk. Could this really be the answer? Her forehead moistened as she weighed the excitement of rebellion against the fear of getting caught. Of course you haven't, Krista continued. I've been feeling the need for a new misdemeanor lately. What do you say you and I go out and commit your first crime? I'll show you the ropes. It won't be too big of a deal at all with my experience. An awkward pause followed while Christy visibly processed the question. She thought about what crime would be her first, and if she really had what it takes to do such a wild and spontaneous feat. But before she could reply, the Real Housewives of Wichita, Kansas went on a commercial break.
Huge car blowout! Toyota cars for days! Come on down to your local Toyota dealership and buy a car. They're way better than American cars because they aren't made by Americans.
That's it! Krista yelled, jumping up to launch the Cheeto crumbs off her belly button rim. You need a new car anyway. Let's steal one of these Toyotas. It always helps to gamify new things you want to start. Like people who want to lose weight get apps where they gain points for making progress. We will just call this a game of Black Ops. You and I can coordinate a plan, steal a new Corolla from our local dealership, and you can come away feeling like a brand new woman.
Shouldn't we at least let someone know before we do it? You know, make our own report on it first so it's not illegal?
Christy asked nicely.
I'm all for taking this chance, but if I can avoid additional charges and have some people still like us afterward, maybe we can mix my politeness with your hardened criminality. Who knows? Maybe we could find a new ethical way to do crime.
Krista laughed. You don't know anything about being bad, do you? Once you go bad, there's no going back, sister. There's no ethical way to commit a crime. You gotta take one look at yourself and say my needs are worth more than everyone else's, and no consequence is scarier than living unfulfilled. Motivated by the speech, Christy reluctantly agreed to play a game of Black Ops, while her roommate handed over a crumb-covered ski mask she had been keeping under a couch cushion. I wore this for my first petty theft, and I want you to have it, Krista emotionally explained. As they drove to the dealership, Christy's stomach churned with nerves. Her initial willingness to commit the crime was waning as she gripped the steering wheel tightly. Thoughts of backing out flooded her mind. What if they get caught? What if this ruined her life? Yet a small rebellious voice whispered that this crime could finally set her free. Pulling into the dealership, Christy's hands trembled as she took in the sight of the pristine lot filled with beautiful non-American cars. Each vehicle, with its massaging seats and heated cup holders, represented the life she could have if she took control and made her own choices. Trying to steady herself, she wondered if she could really go through with it. Don't forget to put on your ski mask. We don't want your identity compromised, Krista said, getting out of the car. The women stood near Christy's shitbox car as Krista laid out the plan. All right, we're going to bust out the window, hotwire this puppy, and get the hell out of here. I think this car is the one for you, Krista said confidently.
And you're sure we don't need to call the police and tell them what we're doing, just to save ourselves from getting in trouble?
Christy responded, feeling more nervous than ever. You're back on this again? No, 1,000 times no. Not only is your lack of legal knowledge extremely concerning, but the consequences of those actions are even bigger than you can imagine. Please don't, Krista begged, her thieving tools in hand. Krista looked at her own hands, still trembling at the thought of getting her first felony.
I think we should probably just give someone a heads up, to be safe.
Christy said, pulling out her cell phone. Krista yelled, continuing to beg, as Christy fought to remember her passcode. Please don't. If you do this, I'll be gone forever. You're only hurting yourself. Krista pleaded. With her smartphone now unlocked, Christy dialed 911 anxiously. Her hands shook as tears welled up in her eyes.
I'm just trying to make this legal,
she whispered, more to herself than Krista. As the phone rang, drawing Christy closer to the law, the vision of her rebellious roommate began to fade. I told you not to do that, Christy cried. You can't ethically commit a crime, just like you can't convince your conscience to give in. We were foolish. With her final thoughts known, Krista vanished into thin air. The realization hit Christy harder than any physical object ever could. Krista had been a manifestation of everything she had suppressed within herself. Lee County PD, what's your emergency? The dispatcher asked. Christy shook with the phone to her ear, looking at the place where the representation of her criminal side once stood. She was all alone, just as she always had been. There was no one to answer for her crimes but herself. Hello? The dispatcher prompted. Are you experiencing a Fight Club twist over there? Christy carefully planned her response to the officer, attempting to appease both sides of her mind, committing a crime, but doing so ethically.
I'm trying to steal a car that's not legally mine, so y'all better come make a report. I'm reporting this.
Hanging up the phone and placing it in her pocket, Christy walked toward the Corolla she had been eyeing from the beginning. With the premeditated crime now self-reported, she lifted her tool for thievery, striking the glass, and beginning her now legal auto theft. In June of 2024, the Lee County, Florida Sheriff's Department received a perplexing call from a woman who claimed she was reporting a car theft she had yet to commit, believing it would somehow make the act legal. According to deputies, the woman said during the 911 call, "Because I'm trying to steal a car that's not legally mine, so y'all better come make a report. I'm reporting this." When deputies arrived at the local Toyota dealership, they found 37-year-old Christy Turman exiting the driver's side of a stolen vehicle. Although Christy intended to steal the car, she had yet to start it, which allowed her to avoid a Grand Theft Auto charge. As a result, she is currently only facing trespassing charges. I know what you're thinking. Whoa, Trevin just Fight Clubbed me. Yeah, I didn't think I had it in me either. Although twists like this aren't always my favorite, I couldn't resist when this story inspired the idea. Plus, we have a new felon on our Patreon named Krista, so it was that petty crime magic. There's a lot to learn from Christy, Krista, and the duality within us all. Inside each of us are two roommates, forever locked in a timeshare of your soul. One is lawful, by the book, and conforming. The other is criminal, feeding on chaos and malfeasance. When deciding which of your two will win, remember, it's the one you most regularly let out. I hope all of you, whether law-abider or crime committer, learn a bit about balance through the story. May your two roommates enjoy a new Housewives of Insert City together, venting all your wild thoughts. But when planning your Saturday night in public, let the nice one take the wheel. If you don't decide which roommate you are, you might end up turning yourself in for a crime.
So she only got trespassing.
Yep.
And you freaking Fight Clubbed all of us.
I know. It kind of drives me nuts in movies when they do that sometimes.
No, that was good. It was perfect. We got to include Krista's name in there. Thank you for joining our felony level on Patreon.
Thank you, Krista. And also, that is why it's confusing with the Christy and Krista thing. And I had to play it off so that it seemed more natural because I said unfortunately, because it had to be that way for it to be more evil side, good side.
I am so glad that the names were that similar because it really fit the story and it made sense when you announced that. Oh my God. That was a great twist. And it felt kind of rewarding to know that that's what was going on.
I kept hinting at it for so long at first, saying, oh, do you think we should at least tell somebody first? And it's like, oh, I know where this is going. Two people are going to do it, and this person's going to turn them both in.
Yeah.
But I thought, no, we got to hit them with a second twist because it's more bizarre than just that.
Yes. And I love the way that that unfolded. And I love how you even told me on your last line, kind of make your voice not as high pitched, you know, like it's a blend. Oh, it was so good.
If you listen to it again, there are so many clues throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
Before the story goes in, I say, today we're going to experience one person's this.
Okay, you little devil.
I watched way too much Saw as a kid. And as an adult, let's be honest.
And as an adult, yes. Wow. I am blown away that because she turned herself in, I guess you could look at it two different ways, right? You could look at it as maybe she could have committed the crime, got away with it. I mean, probably not. She probably eventually would have been caught stealing a brand new truck. They have trackers in those things, right?
Not all of them, but yeah.
But most likely. But let's just say, hypothetically, she was able to commit the crime without turning herself in and totally got away with it. More likely than not, she would get caught. But on this other hand, she is turning herself in beforehand and only getting a lesser charge than the heavier charge. I don't know.
So are you trying to argue that maybe it kind of worked?
Maybe it was a good thing. Because most likely, let's get real, she would have been caught.
Yeah.
If she went through with the crime and didn't turn herself in. Then she would have been charged with Grand Theft Auto. At least in this weird, bizarre scenario, if you're gonna commit the crime no matter what, then it's better to get caught before you commit it.
I couldn't agree more.
But it's also just very bizarre. The whole thing in general. Like, why?
Yeah, they said that she believed that if she started the report of it, then it wasn't illegal or something. Like it wasn't.
Wow.
I mean, it's more polite. You don't have to spring it on anybody and everybody be like, oh, shoot, didn't know that car was getting stolen. It's nice to not be surprised sometimes.
Wow. She thought that it would make it legal to just report it beforehand. What does she think then? This whole time in life, did she think, oh, if I really feel like murdering my husband, I'm going to call the cops and be like, listen, buddy over here's got to go. And I'm reporting it now, so I can't get charged with murder. Like, did she think that was how it was all the time? Was there drug usage involved? Mental health struggles? I'm curious. I wish I knew.
They didn't say any of that. I will say there is a 911 call, but they just played one little clip of it in a news section. And it's just that exact quote. And she sounds anxious, high energy.
Okay.
So it could be a meth situation, perhaps.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I could see that, but they didn't say.
no, all I had to go off of was
Split personality disorder.
yeah, which I thought was a really just a great way to do it.
Honestly, I'm so glad you did. I loved every second of it. And now, when the episode is done, I want to go back and listen to it again and know this in my mind and catch on. So I love that. Well, Trevin,
Yes.
I also have a story to tell, and it is a story from the news. It has to do with the subject matter that, as a boring married person, this isn't something that I've had to do in a while. But I thought it was a fun story, and I hope you all enjoy as well. So here we go. Introducing yourself to someone you find attractive is a difficult thing to do. Hyping yourself up beforehand may be the hardest step.
I think I can.
But once you fire up your confidence, forward motion is sure to occur. In the short walk towards your hopeful mate, there's a lot to do, including checking your teeth for food with your tongue, casually examining your zipper, and expelling any unwanted gas before you arrive at your destination. Next, you must choose your attention grabber. The dramatic yet vulnerable sigh, the relentless eye contact, or sensual stretching.
The bend and snap works every time.
If you've even made it this far in the process, it only gets tougher with finding the right pickup line to use.
Is it just me, or do I smell sexy?
This is true for all of us, even for all the petty criminals out there, looking for the Bonnie to their Clyde, minus all the murder. Today's story is about how spitting game can leave you detained. 20-year-old Stephfon Bennett was struggling in the Columbus, Ohio dating scene in 2009. Meeting ladies out and about came so natural to all of his friends. Yet for Stephfon, it was the complete opposite. This wasn't due to his appearance, as he always made sure to iron all of his shirts and floss. And it wasn't due to him being shy, as he was a pretty confident and outgoing person. Stephfon's struggles in meeting women stemmed from one thing, and that was timing. He seemed to always make a move at the most inopportune moments, like in the middle of communion at church.
Lord in heaven.
I've got a whole bottle of the Lord's blood bottled up at my place.
Or hitting on a bride at her wedding.
Cheers to the bride and groom. Are you sure you don't want me, Sheila?
He even tried to snag a girl at a funeral.
I'm so sorry for your loss. But seeing you in that little black dress was everyone's gain.
Stephfon's poor timing was really interrupting his dating life. Instead of hearing,
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Stephfon was hearing,
No fucking way.
to fill the void in his empty heart, he would commit crimes with a couple of his best friends, Chris and One Nut Tony. They never intended on hurting anyone during their small thefts and muggings, but they did carry a weapon just in case. Together, they made a pretty good team of thugs. Chris packed the heat, Stephfon interjected with demands,
Empty your pockets.
and One Nut Tony stood as the imposing bodyguard, regardless of his single nut. Although illegal and morally unsound, Stephfon was much better at robbing than romance. His wild timing and awkward social skills worked to his advantage when catching his victims off guard.
Surprise, sucker.
Yet, no matter how much he stole with his pals, Stephfon was still reminded of the love he lacked. This was precisely the case on a September evening when he went to hang out with the boys. Chris suggested they scour the streets and rob any cars that were left unlocked. The two other men agreed and found a dimly lit road with many vehicles to choose from. They parked their escape car under a shady tree and walked quietly up and down the sidewalk. The men jiggled handles as they walked, with no luck finding an unlocked door. Suddenly, they heard voices approaching. One Nut Tony peeked over the rows of automobiles to see a man and woman walking towards one of the nearby parked cars.
The man's got a wallet, and the lady's got a nice purse.
He whispered to his partners in crime.
Good,
Said Chris.
You jump out and scare him with small talk, Stephfon. Then One Nut Tony will step out, showing him we mean business. And finally me, grabbing what I can get. Let's hope I don't have to use this baby.
Chris warned, grabbing into the gun in his holster. The men nodded at each other and waited for the perfect moment to... Stephfon shouted out, interrupting the narrator of this story and the couple he wanted to mug. But instead of continuing on with his loud ramblings or word vomit to distract the couple, Stephfon stood there, speechless.
Oh my god.
He locked eyes with the woman he just scared and intended to rob, yet was left mesmerized. Her wide eyes sparkled in the dim lighting, and her startled jump caused her full wavy hair to flow in the wind.
Wow.
She was beautiful, and for once, Stephfon couldn't find the wrong words to say. Meanwhile, Chris and One Nut Tony waited for their cue behind a truck parked nearby. Hearing nothing but stunned silence, they quickly realized something was amiss. One Nut Tony jumped out from behind the truck, and Chris jumped out from behind One Nut Tony.
Freeze!
Chris shouted.
Give us the wallet and the purse and no one gets hurt.
Chris threatened, holding out his gun toward the terrified couple. Without hesitation, the couple handed over their belongings to Chris. However, a neighbor out on their porch was less submissive.
You get out of here, you no good rotten hooligans, before I call the police!
The fiery old neighbor shouted. The threats caused Chris and One Nut Tony to run back to their car. Yet Stephfon remained where he stood, staring lovingly at the traumatized woman before him.
Lover boy, let's get out of here.
Chris shouted, breaking Stephfon from his trance. He took one last look at the beauty before him and ran back to the getaway car. Once back at Chris's place, the crew dissected the stolen wallet and purse. They split the small amount of cash and valuables and decided to order a pizza. While Chris and One Nut Tony discussed pizza toppings, all Stephfon could think about was the gorgeous woman he just robbed. He recalled her full lips as they quivered in fear, and the passionate intensity she had in her flawless face as she glared at him. He wondered who the man with her was. Maybe a brother or a friend? Surely not a husband. But as Stephfon spiraled, Chris interrupted his love trance once again.
I said, what pizza toppings do you want, Stephfon?
Chris questioned his stunned accomplice. Stephfon snapped back to the present, saying,
I forgot I'm lactose intolerant on a diet and just ate. I'll catch up with you guys later.
Using every excuse he could think of, Stephfon left his boys and headed back to the scene of the crime. He was on the hunt for the vixen victim who stole his heart before his friend stole her purse. It wasn't long before Stephfon made it back to the desolate lane where his new romance began. He retraced his steps, hopeful he would spot the woman from earlier, or at least pick up a faint scent of her sweet perfume. It was then he heard a front door swing open on a nearby porch. Stephfon cranked his neck to see who stepped outside. To his surprise, there she was. The woman he helped mug was standing out on her front porch with her arms crossed and brows furrowed. Her eyes were scanning the dark neighborhood, almost as if she was searching for Stephfon. He knew he had to time this out right, as he didn't want to startle her.
Hey!
Stephfon shouted out over the narrator, his sudden yell startling the woman on her porch.
Ah, what the hell, man? Wait, are you one of the guys from earlier?
The woman said, with terror and disbelief.
I was hoping you might recognize me. I was wondering if you were single and if you wanted to go out with me sometime.
Stephfon asked in his most sincere voice.
Oh, wow. Let me just ask my cousin what plans we have, and I'll let you know.
The woman responded to Stephfon as she texted her cousin.
Call 911. Desperate perp came back to my house to ask me out.
In early September of 2009, Daniel Martinez Batista and Diana Martinez were robbed outside of their home in Columbus, Ohio. The robbers were three men who took Batista's wallet and Martinez's purse at gunpoint. After nearby neighbors threatened the muggers, they ran off with the couple's belongings. It was less than 2 hours after the robbery when police say that 20-year-old Stephfon Bennett returned to the home where he helped rob the couple. When he spotted Diana Martinez outside, he asked her if she had a boyfriend and if she would like to go out on a date. Columbus Police Sergeant Sean Laird was quoted saying,
"We're not exactly sure what he was thinking at the time. She recognized him right away when he returned and was able to have her cousin call 911. It's never happened in my 8 years and some months. I've never had anything like this before."
Officers responded to the 911 call and arrested Stephfon in front of the victim's house. The other two men suspected of robbing the couple remain at large. Unfortunately for lover boy Stephfon, he was arraigned on a charge of aggravated robbery and was being held in the Franklin County Jail on a $100,000 bail. No follow-ups or punishments were found online. Hitting on a sexy new someone can be a real scary thing. We all know how crucial it is to keep breath mints on hand and to practice our pickup lines in the mirror. But I'd argue that timing plays a much more important role when it comes to making an advance. Plus, no hottie is worth returning to the scene of a crime for. Because if you do, you may just find yourself robbed of love.
That is a really good premise for a crime. I've never thought of even the possibility of somebody doing that.
When I saw the headlines, obviously that's what grabs me a lot. But when I saw that it was described as Robert goes back to the scene of the crime to ask the victim out on a date, I was like, that's so stupid. Usually I don't want to cover a crime if there's like guns involved, but no one was hurt. And actually, only like a couple of the articles even mentioned the gun at all. But before I jump into a couple other things about this, I wanted to give a shout out to Chris H on Patreon for making an appearance in this story today.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Wow, we had a Krista and a Chris.
A Krista and a Chris all in one episode.
Big
I know
Chris
it's a lot of
energy.
it. Big Chris energy up in the shit. So thank you so much. I'm sorry that I made you a heat packing thug. Also, I just wanted to clarify one other thing. None of the articles clarified if the couple who was robbed was married, if they were relatives. I mean, they both have the same last name and they did keep calling them the couple. So I assume they're married, but nowhere in any article did I ever say like a husband and wife. It just said the couple. I don't know.
So you're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance for little Stephfon. But I assume they were married. And I don't know. I could find no details about how Diana Martinez was able to tell her cousin to call 911. I don't know if her cousin was there at the house too.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that too.
But in my story, just to make it work, I made it that she was texting her cousin. But in all the articles, it said she told her cousin, and her cousin was the one who called 911. So I don't know the exact step-by-step details of how their interaction went. I just know it was somewhere outside of her house. They saw each other again, and he came back and asked her to go on the date. Also, Trevin, can I just say, I wrote this character, and I had a hell of a time making him have really bad game and interrupting and bad pickup lines. And you did a really good job playing that character. So thank you.
Thank you. The interruptions was a really fun touch.
Yeah. And you also mentioned this in your story, but you talked about the narrator. We both talked about the narrator. Mine was brought up multiple times. Yours was only brought up, I believe, at the beginning, but it was something I immediately wrote down because we don't usually talk about ourselves in that way.
Not within the main part of the story.
Yes. We're not being like the narrator of this story, but we both brought it up. I can't even remember how you brought yours up, but it was.
I had said that Christy's roommate, unfortunately for your narrator, her name's Krista.
Yes. Okay.
I said we'll do our best to make it less confusing.
Yes, that's what it was. We were both kind of breaking the fourth wall, I guess, in that moment. But that was something that I noticed. Other than the Chris connection, obviously, too.
Here's to the narrator. Doesn't have to actually be us.
Yeah, but it's just funny to break that fourth wall and be like, listen, this is difficult for us, too. Okay?
Yeah. Christy and Krista was difficult.
It was. And my interruptions were hilarious, but uncalled for.
Were there any pictures with this? Does like Stephfon look like a guy with no game?
Yes.
And is this woman just so, does it show her?
I could not find a picture of the woman anywhere. There is a mugshot of Stephfon. And also, I don't even know if he pronounces it that way, but it's spelled like Stephfon.
PHF?
Yeah, there's a PH and an F, y'all.
Stephfon.
So I don't know if he just says Stephfon. I don't know.
That's like the perfect pickup line there. He's like, my name's Stephfon, but the extra F is for you.
I'm down to F, if you know what I mean.
Man, that would have to be a very just breathtaking woman or a real great connection to put yourself back in there.
I don't know, but it obviously failed, and it was a one-sided connection at best.
Yeah.
So I just hope that everyone out there is having the best week. And just remember, no matter the crime, big or small, in the end, we're all doomed.
Doomed to rain blobs. Blah, 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 blah.
Bye.
See ya.
Has the eclipse affected your menstrual cycle or someone you love's? If so, come on over to Patreon and get cheered up. We've got movie nights, parody songs, and lots of extra fun bonus content, all ad-free.
And get off your poop needle and follow us on social media. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or Threads. Live, Laugh, Larceny.
And have you ever hit on somebody that you just robbed? If so, send us your petty crime story, livelaughlarceny@gmail.com.
And if you like the Fight Club twist, why don't you go ahead and give us 5 stars wherever you rate podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or Good Pods. Most of her days were spent bending. Most of her days were spent bending. Spent bending? Okay. Most of her. And then I lisp at the first word.
You're like, no, I've got this.